In a significant meeting held on Sunday, October 1, 2023, between the federal government of Nigeria and the leadership of the Nigeria Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress, several key resolutions were reached to address the ongoing dispute stemming from the removal of the subsidy on premium motor spirit. They agreed on wage increments, CNG bus deployment, support for small enterprises, value-added tax waiver on diesel and household payments. Now, resolutions include focusing on work, presenting higher wage requests to the president, forming a subcommittee for intervention details, addressing transport union matters, and considering strike suspension pending resolution. The meeting, chaired by Femi Gbajabiamila, involved key officials and labor leaders. To talk more about this, I'm being joined by Wilcox, economic policy analyst, and is also the immediate past chairman ICAN, Lagos and District Society. Thank you so much, Alexa, for joining us on the show. You need to unmute your device, Alexa.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you for having me. It's my utmost pleasure. Let me also join millions of Nigerians to wish the country happy independence celebrations, and hoping that the country will move forward and forward and forward always. Thank you for having me.
Thank you too. Now, is it concerning that the federal government and the labor bickering lasted up till, from the time it started up till now, with the going back and forth of agreements and agreements not being met by government, and the union saying that they would always go on strike, giving warning strikes, up to this moment where they've been able to agree on some certain areas, but then there is no concrete hope that these agreements will still be met? Are you bothered about the labor impasse between the federal government and the union?
Sincerely, I am very, very bothered. I am very, very bothered, and I'm sure most Nigerians are bothered that the bickering is getting too much, and the back and forth is getting too much. Sincerely, it's not the... I do not know the president that I'm talking about, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to be somebody that does not get things done expeditiously when he does things. This is somebody that has the Midas touch on issues, and issues are often resolved quickly under his watch. We've seen this over time, but I don't understand why since May 29th up till date, we're talking about over 125 days, and the issue of labor and government bickering over removal of fuel subsidy has continued. And it always takes last-minute effort when labor threatens strike, and it will be taken to the wire, very last-minute effort for such strike to be averted, and then a little respite comes in terms of buying of time, and then before you know it, the labor union is getting up in arms, threatening fire and brimstone, threatening strike, and then there will be another midnight meeting that will agree on just a few things. I am bothered, and I'm sure many Nigerians are bothered. We will have expected that by now, knowing the antecedents of PBAT, that's President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, his antecedents in getting things done, in sealing deals, I would have expected that by now, whatever may be the issues, whatever may be the issue that's on the table, by now it should have been resolved. Let me not undermine the role always being played by the chief of staff, talking about Femi Gbajabiamila. After running the Nigerian House of Representatives, I think he is skilled in diplomacy and negotiations. But I tell you, this thing is dragging too much, and Nigerians are getting very, very worried about it because it's affecting so many other things. Where there is no concrete policy direction, no concrete solutions, it affects so many, and too many things will get bad because of these expectations. Some things will get worse before we begin to get solutions. And this is not the person of Bola Ahmed Tinubu that we all know, that we all stick at our neck for, we all campaigned for, we all voted for. In terms of getting things done, it is for me very, very embarrassing that we are at this point.
said it was going to do or is going to do moving forward. They announced a 25,000 naira addition to the salaries of lower level workers for 6 months. But then in other reports, we heard that it has been jacked up to about 35,000 naira for all cadre of federal government workers. But whatever the case may be, why 6 months? Why an initial 6 months? Because some people say they would have preferred that the increase would be sustained and probably would form a benchmark for a new minimum wage.
Well, if I look at in the nitty-gritty of the arrangement of the agreement being reached last night, I had always advocated physical intervention in terms of resolving some of the issues that are being thrown up with the removal of fuel subsidy. And one of them is increment in workers' wages. There is no gainsaying that there should be an increment in workers' wages. Because right now, the government cannot claim to be cash-strapped since fuel subsidy has been removed. So the government now have more money into the coffers of government. There's now more money into coffers of government from all sources. Remember, there was a twin policy, devaluing the naira drastically, which was almost 100% devaluation of the naira, and then the removal of fuel subsidy. So those two policies alone will have freed up a lot of cash, a lot, and we saw that displayed. We saw that played out in the fact for the month of May, the month of June, and even July, where there was an astronomical increase in the amount of money that was available to be shared by traders of government, to the point that the government has to make some savings reserve, kept some reserve of, I think some in a month in over 900 billion was, I can't remember the figures now, but something in the neighborhood of 6 to 800 billion was making as reserve. So there's a lot of free cash now that the government is no longer spending in subsidizing forex, So there should be the need for workers' salary increase. And of course, so what I see happens here, it's a stopgap because minimum wage is a function of National Assembly. The government cannot create a new minimum wage. It is a function of National Assembly. So what I'm seeing here is a stopgap. Okay, let us give the workers a little bit of money, which the government can afford, and then the National Assembly will now sit down and pass a responsible minimum wage. Of course, Nigerian minimum wage is very, very low compared to what's happening. So it's a stopgap, which for me is appreciated. But is that the way to go? For me, yes, that is just one aspect of the way to go. I'm also happy the fact that VAT on diesel was suspended. I should have said total removal. But well, if it's suspended for 6 months, it's also a welcome development so that the situation can be reviewed. Because look, we are looking at a situation whereby the price of imported goods is becoming very high because of the exchange rate. Now, when the exchange rate goes up, it increases prices of the imported goods. Therefore, your VAT is also based on that value. So what do? You should reduce taxes. I'm even expecting that by now, personal income tax, PITA, will have been reduced because state governments that receive the personal income tax, they now have additional money, so much money now coming to their coffers. So additional income tax for workers should have been reduced because that is the only way to put money back in the hands of workers. Not necessarily by increasing salary. Yes, interest salary is also good, but you need to put more money in their hands by reducing taxes. So that's why I say there should be a lot of fiscal intervention.
Yes, talking about interventions now, let's leave the workers and look at the household. The federal government also said that it will be extending about 75,000 naira to about 50 million households. Well, if you are to equate that as 25,000 naira to this household within 3 months. So what do you also make of this intervention to households too? Do you think it will also help?
Well, that program has always been fraught with suspicion, and sincerely, I'm still suspicious about that program to the extent that it's a good development, no doubt. But to the extent that how were these households, how were they brought into the scheme?
Well, there's a social register. There's a social register, and of course, according to what we know, it's been expanded to accommodate more.
We have had this. We have had this over time. I'm not saying it's a bad policy. We've had this over time. I come from a village. The name of my village is Peterside in Bonny local government area. I'm not sure. I've not heard, and that is ward, and I think that is Ward 10 or Ward 11 in local government area. I've not heard that anybody in my village, I'm talking about my village now, I live in Lagos now, I'm talking about my village. I've not heard, I might be wrong, that anybody in my village in that ward has been in that social register or has ever received any of such cash transfer. I've not heard. Maybe when I go home this Christmas, I will make inquiries.
Maybe you should.
What am I saying? How were this register, how did this register come about? Yes, there could be some genuine persons in need. I'm not saying it's a bad policy, very wonderful policy, because it happens everywhere in the world. There's cash transfer happens everywhere in the world. But how was it arrived at? And how are we sure that the poorest of the poorest are those that are going to benefit? And that money will not be used for frivolities, for drinking, for functions, ceremonies, will be used truly to to buy food, to buy things that they truly need, and it is those that are generally in need of it that money will be paid to. So if it is for me, if those concerns are cleared, I have no. It's a wonderful development. So long as government can put money in the hands of the people, so that the people can have money to spend. There are a lot of poor people, I agree, that must have intervention. But how did we arrive at them? And I'm repeating it. I'm calling them of my village now. I'm sure this is a national program. I am not sure. I've not heard. I've not seen that anybody from my village, which is, I think, Ward 10 or Ward 11 in local government area of River State, has been in that social register and has received money.
Now, Alexa,
I'm not sure.
Yes, Alexa, this now takes us to this next question, because we're actually wrapping up now. Of course, you've talked about the fact that you are not so sure if your community has these recourse in terms of financial intervention coming to them. So that also talks about those at the state level, workers at the state level, people in various states, because, of course, the commitments between the federal government and the labor union seems to revolve around federal workers. So what about the state governments and their workers? Has there been any concrete commitments coming from them or dragging them into committing towards also improving the welfare of workers at the subnational levels that would also eventually trickle down to the citizens residing within those states?
Yes. I think some states have already made some intervention. I know that Ogun State made intervention of 10,000 naira for 3 or 6 months. As soon as your state made that intervention, I'm also aware that River State, my own state, I'm sure they made some intervention. So now I think what's happening now is states are making some piecemeal interventions while waiting on the federal government to give a new minimum wage. So these interventions, are they sustainable? The answer is no. They cannot be. They're not sustainable because they are like something that of the rule of the thumb. A state governor felt, I have extra money, I can do this.
Okay.
So they just do it for their worker.
Right.
But regrettably, above all, what of the unemployed, the pensioners? I've not heard anything about for the pension, because the pensioners are some of the worst hit. The unemployed are some of the worst hit, because the pensioners, there are some pensioners that earn as little as 15,000 naira in a month. So does this agreement cover the pensioners? Even federal, I'm talking about federal government pensioners. Does it cover them? So I've not heard anything about pensioners. I've not heard anything about unemployed, because there are so many unemployed people. And that is why I am not totally in support of throwing money at the problem. I would have expected that the government should have expended some of this extra money in public work programs that will recruit a lot of hands. And just like what the last government did with the last program that they did for graduates, that is what I expect government to do at this point. As an interim measure, to put more money in the hands of people, especially the younger ones, the youth, the unemployed, even the adult unemployed, so that creating public works, whereby, because Nigeria has a lot of infrastructure deficit, direct labor job, gutter cleaning, buildings, road constructions, those kind of a thing. Because if you just throw money into people's hands, yes, a lot of people might need the money, but would they use it for really what it is for?
Well, Alexa, that might just be a work in the pipeline or in the offing. And what is more critical as regards the yearnings of Nigerians and other stakeholders is meeting the immediate needs of the people, and of course rolling out palliatives just to cushion the effect of the economic measures that has been put in place by this administration. And maybe all those social skill acquisition intervention programs will come in the subsequent years or months, as the case may be. But then that is how we get to draw curtains on the discussion. Alexa Wilcox, economic and
Thank you very much.
Analyst.
Thank you very much. And finally, I want to plead that what you are thinking about should come to fruition quickly, because that is the only way we can go and come out of our economic woes. Not throwing money, not just throwing money into people's hand or throwing money at the problem, but targeted the problem and spend money to get the problem resolved.
Well, we are all hopeful
Thank you
for that. Thank you so much. And that's it on today's edition of Business Edge. Don't forget that you can visit our social media platforms at News Central TV, download our mobile app on App Store and Play Store, and also watch News Central live on all our social media platforms, while also visiting our websites, www.newscentral.africa. My name is Lekan, Onabanjo. Thank you so much for being part of today's edition of the show. Tomorrow is another time, 11 a.m. West African time, even as we discuss other business-related issues. Do stay with us. We'll bring you the news at the top of the hour.